everyone. My name is Beth Worrell, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our webinar with Ruth Lewis and IEEE. You're very welcome to participate in the online chat and submit your questions as we go through today's presentation. I do want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands upon which we all meet today. I want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm joining you today from the lands of the Kaurna people down here in South Australia, and we would love to hear where you are all joining from today. So we are delighted to welcome Ruth Lewis to present on the IEEE today. It's fantastic. Ruth has been very patient with us and has worked with us for many months actually. And so we've been very excited to put this event together to share some of the insights and resources and materials that we think are going to be useful and helpful on your responsible AI journey. Ruth has a huge background and there's a lot of involvement that she has across multiple areas of the IEEE. I won't go into too much detail on Ruth. She is going to present across all of the different things that she's involved in, so you will learn more about her. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the National AI Centre and provide you with a quick overview of who we are and what we do. So we were established with some funding from the Department of Industry, Science and Resources a year or so ago. We have foundation partners, CEDA and Google, and we're very grateful for their support in advancing some of the work that we are doing in Australia as well. We have two main purposes: to accelerate Australia's adoption of artificial intelligence and make sure that that is responsible right across industries. We also want to grow our capabilities in Australia, and we're advancing a number of different very exciting initiatives, including Australia's AI Sprint at the moment. And this is an opportunity for us to foster, develop and grow and strengthen our own capabilities in the artificial intelligence space. We're also doing a heap to support small and medium-sized businesses in their acceleration of AI and their journey to better understand and use the tool. In terms of the program that I run, I look after the Responsible AI Network, and we have a number of partners with whom we work who are added here on the slide. We're very grateful to their support, and we're very, very interested to hear from any organisation that might be interested in partnering with us. We hope, Ruth, that we can also add the IEEE to this slide very soon. So we work across 7 actionable pillars, and we are producing a number of resources. We're curating content and sharing materials to help you on your journey towards responsible artificial intelligence. And we really know and certainly have every sympathy for organisations that are being looking at this topic of responsibility in the use of artificial intelligence. And it's our job to help try and simplify and share with you the best practice resources that we're finding so that you can actually get on with the job of implementing the tools and hopefully accelerating your company's journey towards using artificial intelligence. As mentioned, that we do a lot to support small, medium-sized businesses, as well as lots of other people in Australia who are just interested in learning more about artificial intelligence. So one thing that I would love you to undertake today, or perhaps even promote to your teams and colleagues, is a free online course on artificial intelligence. We've supported the Institute for Applied Technology to offer Australians free access to this course. You do get a certification, so there's a lot that you can gain from understanding artificial intelligence and really improving your capabilities and confidence in this area. So please do the course and share it with your friends, colleagues, family members, cats, dogs. You know, there's lots of content and learning out there, but we really think this is one that all Australians should have access to. So we would love to hear from you when you complete that, that course. So with that, Ruth, I'm going to hand over to you. We are in your hands from here, so we really look forward to learning more about the IEEE and the resources that are available to Australian businesses. Thank you, Ruth.
And thank you, Beth. Just sharing my content. Can you see that? Oh, hang on. Is that coming through?
No, just need to share. There you go.
Is that good? Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and thanks. Hi, everyone. So as Beth mentioned, my name is Ruth Lewis, and I'm an independent consultant, and I volunteer as chair of the Global IEEE Society for Social Implications of Technology Standards Committee, which develops ethical and sustainable global standards for emerging technologies, including AI. And today I'm here to present Advancing Responsible AI for Australia, IEEE's Ethical and Sustainable Standards and Certification. So again, I'd like to thank Beth Worrell and the National AI Centre for the opportunity to present today. Goodness. Just having trouble knowing what to do. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. So in this presentation, I'll initially be talking to you about some of the opportunities and the challenges of AI development. And then I'll introduce you to the IEEE and the IEEE Standards Association. And then I will talk about AI principles, Australia's AI principles and IEEE's way of going from AI principles into practice by talking about IEEE's suite of ethical standards and its certification program. And then I would like to talk to you about opportunities for you to get involved, followed by a session, or a question and answer session that you can ask some questions of your own. So first of all, I'll introduce IEEE. IEEE is formerly known as the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and it's actually the world's largest technical professional organisation, and it's dedicated to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. So IEEE inspires a global community of innovation, and it's a place where forward-thinking professionals collaborate to discover what's next in technology innovation, to build technical communities, to shape and to share research, to engage in humanitarian activities, and of course to create global standards. Now, the IEEE Standards Association is an international standards development organisation, or SDO. IEEE Standards Association has collaborative agreements with the Department of Industry, Sciences and Resources, as well as Standards Australia. And it is dedicated to developing the global market with relevant open standards and solutions to advance global technologies and technology platforms, to promote innovation, to protect public safety, health and well-being, and of course to contribute to a sustainable future. Now, the IEEE Standards Association, sorry, I'll just back up a minute. So now I'm going to talk about the opportunities and the challenges of AI development. And one of the most exciting things, of course, with AI development is when we read about worldwide revenues for the artificial intelligence or AI market, which is quite amazing. They're forecast to grow year on year to $2 trillion by 2030, which is quite extraordinary. And of course, responding to this, there is a conscious increase by system and service providers in actually applying and integrating AI to solve problems for their clients. And there are also regional and national strategies which have only increased investment into both horizontal and vertically oriented AI systems, and of course supported and coordinated across university systems and research bodies. However, there are obviously some concerns around this rapid development of AI. And the first concern is really around small to mid-sized enterprises, which we see lack AI literacy, and they don't necessarily have ready availability to access AI ethics expertise to guide them. And cities and governments require the means to properly deal with the ethical AI concerns and considerations of their citizens. Another concern or consideration is that the AI principles that are developed by governments they have these what we call soft attributes like human-centered values and well-being, and these are perceived to be very difficult to actually demonstrate compliance to the marketplace. There's a very interesting chart which I'd like to share with you, which shows that as companies increase their investments into AI, unfortunately their investments into risk mitigation techniques are not matched with this investment. And this is a very interesting chart taken from a McKinsey study over a number of years. And what they're doing is looking at what sort of risk mitigation investments have actually been made by companies, such as organisational reputation or mitigating fairness, privacy, explainability, or investment in all these areas, or even workforce displacement. They've really barely changed in terms of investment in these risk mitigation strategies and investments, which leads us to wonder, why aren't organisations taking this issue seriously? There's another chart I'd also like to share with you, which is actually done. It's taken from a KPMG survey from last year, a survey done by the University of Queensland. And that's a global survey which shows that there is a, particularly in the development world, quite a global distrust of AI. And I've actually circled the section which shows that Australians similarly really have a lot of trouble in accepting or trusting AI. But 34% are willing to trust AI, but only 23% are willing to accept AI, which is very concerning. So how does IEEE look to encourage development of responsible AI, and how do they address the problems of this lack of trust in AI by the community in dealing with the ethical AI concerns and considerations, and also deal with this lack of understanding AI, what we call AI literacy in many organisations? So without this earned trust, without dealing with the very real concerns about AI, there can be no realisation of the benefits of AI, nor protection from the harms of AI. Now, IEEE works in a manner going from principles to practice, and they have a very systematic approach to building market trust and AI literacy or understanding, and they have created this entire ecosystem going from principles to practice. So if you go from the left, you'll see that IEEE starts with this AI industry connections program, where they actually gather together industry professionals and contributors, and then these connections programs actually publish papers, reports, they gather feedback with the various versions, editions, and then they gather industry momentum. And this is actually where the AI principles and the practices are actually formed. And also the use and the applications of AI are explained, and particularly how they can be applied to various types of organisations and businesses. And this leads then to industry technical standards and the standards development within standards working groups. And they develop and then publish these standards. Now, IEEE standards are really practical. They are how-to principles. They're not high level. They are very specific. And then these standards are then adapted into a mature AI ethics certification program with a published criteria suite, a defined assessment methodology, and an associated ecosystem of training, audit assessors, a registry, and strategic partners as well. So let's go back to Australia's AI ethics principles, and of course there are 8 of them, and these are published on the Department of Industry, Science and Resources website. So hopefully you're familiar with these. Now, while all of these principles are really important, I'd really like to specifically draw your attention to the first 2 of these principles, as I feel they're probably the most important of them all, and yet probably the least understood. Now, these principles are actually adapted from an IEEE Industry Connections program called Ethically Aligned Design. And if you go to the DISA website, you'll actually see that in the footnote, which I've put on the screen. So Ethically Aligned Design Program was actually started way back in 2015, and then they published several versions of their report, and then the first edition was finally published in 2019, and that's where I'd like to begin to explain these particular principles. So ethically aligned design and these principles on human, societal and environmental well-being and human-centered values are all about the need to prioritise human and environmental well-being and flourishing or wellness as key metrics of success and outcomes for any technology in implementation, service or product, but in particular for AI. And these concepts also underpin concepts such as the future of industry, Industry 5.0 as it's called, the next evolution of AI into robotics who live amongst us, and also the future of work. And that is to go beyond efficiency and productivity to an organisation that is human-centric, sustainable and resilient. So these principles are so fundamental that IEEE has strong intentions to include these in all of their standards, and that IEEE Standards Association produces. But there is also a suite of standards that they produce that are called socio-technical standards, whereby these principles are especially important, as they are all about how to put this into practice. So I just want to provide a quick definition here. A socio-technical standard is one that holistically encompasses the interaction between the technical, the people and the process aspect of the system or the organisation which we're talking about in the standard. So let's start back with ethically aligned design, where the second version was actually released in 2017 and became the foundation for Australia's AI ethics principles, alongside many other international organisations, including the OECD and UNESCO, IBM, the Future of Life organisation, and so on. This was truly groundbreaking stuff at the time. Now, I just want to draw your attention to a little box on the screen that I've got in red, which is actually the ethically aligned design chapters within the report. And these chapters include topics such as classical ethics in AI, well-being, AI for sustainable development, and embedding values into AI, as well as many others. And these specific chapters kicked off many standards developments, such as the standards and certification program that I'll be talking about today. So let's look at the first socio-technical standard that was created from the principles of ethically aligned design, which is the IEEE 7010, which was actually published in 2020, so already 4 years ago. And it's called the Recommended Practice for Assessing the Impact of Autonomous and Intelligent Systems on Human Wellbeing. So this is actually a process, how to document as a societal impact assessment framework, which tells you how to undertake this task to assess and prioritise human and environmental wellbeing. Now, 7010 helps AI systems creators and policymakers to ask a really critical question. So what are we optimizing? What are we looking to do to have our AI systems do and measure as key performance indicators of societal success? So 7010 provides an impact assessment methodology as a process from the outset of the design, and it requires users to identify what we call globally validated domains and indicators which focus on issues of human well-being and environmental sustainability, which will then complement other existing financial and growth metrics, which are often the only KPIs that might be measured for AI development and its use. So looking on the left, you can see there are actually 12 wellbeing domains that are defined, and they include things like affect, which is human emotion, community, culture, education, economy, environment, human settlement, health, government, and so on, psychological wellbeing, and so on. And each of these domains are then linked and complemented with these global indicators, these key performance indicators, such as derived from the OECD's Better Life Index or the UN's Sustainable Development Growth. And these all provide data for the AI designers, and they can use them to more holistically consider issues such as harm and risk and innovation, rather than just using these normal KPIs for exponential profit or growth in isolation. They're supposed to be used together. So really what we measure matters, and for AI to benefit all humans and society, it must take human well-being and environmental sustainability into full account throughout the design and through design of policy to be able to move beyond the status quo definition of how we define success. So the standard actually includes many use cases in the indexes, and this actually shows how to apply the framework to achieve human well-being. And here is just one example, which I have drawn out of the annex, and this is for facial recognition impact assessment. And it's in the situation within an AI surveillance policing system being used to combat local community crime. So using this 7010 framework, the system can then be designed to benefit not only the police, but also the communities that they serve, as well as for society in general. And this is actually done by directly engaging with potential users, in this case the police, and with other stakeholders in the community and in society. So you follow the standards process, and you actually look at the problem here to be solved, being local community crime, from a variety of perspectives. And with these multiple perspectives, you can then identify a number of domains of well-being that should be examined and measured, and that's what I've shown on the right of the screen. So in this case, the domains would be affect, emotion, how people are feeling, community, economy, government, satisfaction with life, and with work. And then each of these domains, you actually, as I mentioned, you draw out and identify appropriate key performance indicators that will show how successful each domain is. So the process then guides you to identify and collect the appropriate data, to baseline the data and then compare the data with other populations, and then to continuously improve your analysis method. So the intent is to find out whether the AI, the facial recognition policing system, has a positive or a negative impact on all of the stakeholders through these domains and indicators, and then apply mitigation methods or measures, and then to continuously assess if the mitigation efforts are actually working. So here is another standard which I want to talk about, and that's called the IEEE 7000, and it was the second standard to be produced from the original ethically aligned design and was published in 2021. And this is actually a model process for addressing ethical concerns during system design, and it's actually been adopted by the ISO IEC and named as the 24748-7000. Again, it is a process. It is a how to identify and mitigate the ethical concerns of all stakeholders, users and communities and society in general. But this time it centres on human values. So 7000 is designed to complement 7010. So 7000, as I mentioned, is a process to embed human-centred values of our society, of our community, into the design of AI. In other words, from the very beginning of developing an AI system or product or service, you need to start identifying and then embedding these human values that are important to you, to your stakeholders, and to your community into the design. So this graphic over here, this coloured one, shows the series of processes that you use to go from developing the system concept and identifying and eliciting the human values through to developing the requirements and then through to the AI design. But perhaps just some clarity here. What are human values? So human values are actually a set of beliefs that helps a person or an organisation in making a judgment on what is more important and how to act. So values such as privacy or autonomy, environmental sustainability, inclusion, community and fairness, trust and justice, sincerity and integrity are all examples of human values. Now, 7000 standard employs what is called value-based engineering to answer a question, which is how shall I act as a system engineer or a product innovation manager or even as the executive responsible for developing an AI system. So ethics in 7000 isn't about personal morals. It's actually about enabling the AI and the automated tools that are created for an organisation's decision making to recognise and drive positive social values and their positive outcomes and prevent negative social values and their outcomes during this process. So here is a real use case used for the 7000 standard. So 7000 and value-based engineering was actually trialled with UNICEF in Africa while building the YOMA platform for African youth and talent development. And what this enabled was to promote and protect the community values such as community cohesion and harmony, which then enabled trust in this AI platform by the community. So initially, when YOMA was conceived, they followed, I guess, the standard traditional IT innovation path, where YOMA initially focused on being an AI-driven talent calculation machine, but that didn't include considerations about community values such as cohesion and harmony and perhaps what the youth really want. And then 7000 had the opportunity to actually refocus this project And then YOMA became, through use of this new process, this new standard, became a community platform for mutual and local support of the African youth. Now, it's very interesting if you have a look at this use case, and I've put some relevant links there. The Chief Technology of YOMA actually praised this project, saying that through using this process, YOMA became more about what the youth really wants, what their values are and what they are looking for in a system like this. And he said that this 7,000 allowed the designers of YOMA to look at the system design from a completely different angle at a very deep and granular level, which added significant value to the new system design. As I mentioned, I've put the links there if you'd like to read more about it. Which leads me along, I guess, to talk about my own, the standards committee that I chair, the Society for Social Implications of Technology Standards Committee, and perhaps some opportunities that you may be interested in becoming involved in or contributing to. So this standards committee is specifically focused on socio-technical standards. And currently it has 19 separate standards working groups, and this number is just growing so rapidly. We have a specific focus on how data, AI, and other emerging technology can be ethically and sustainably applied within organisations and within society. And all of these standards I show here in these blue boxes, and they're all around ethically applying technology or sustainability. The ones I've shown with outlined in green are particularly focused on environmental sustainability. We're actually about to publish our first standard, I'm pleased to say, the IEEE 7014, which is one of the boxes in the middle, and that's called the Standard for Emulated Empathy in Autonomous and Intelligent Systems in AI, which is all around AI services that simulate human feelings and empathy, such as companion chatbots or online psychological helpers. And this standard actually defines ethical guardrails to use when designing and testing applications that use intimate information about people. But we also have, as I mentioned, a whole lot of other very interesting standards working groups, such as the IEEE P3119 down here at the bottom corner, which is the standard for procurement of AI decision-making systems, which will be a huge help to both organisations and government departments and not-for-profits to do this ethically and sustainably. We also have what we call data use, appropriate data use, and also for other sort of what we call applied AI, including neurotechnology, AR, VR, metaverse and educational settings and so on. So some really, really interesting topics. So did you know, though, that myself and also one other of our standards committee officers are actually Australian, and we would absolutely love to have more involvement from local individual contributors to these working groups. So as I mentioned, you can join an existing working group if it sounds interesting, or if you have a great idea for a new standard and would like to share it, please contact me, get in touch, and I've put my email address on the bottom if you'd like to. But, excuse me, would you like to consider volunteering to the IEEE to create the standards that I've mentioned, or even in other standards, such as the 7010, which I mentioned previously, or within the industry connections programs, such as the Ethically Aligned Design, and there's various programs associated with that, or the upcoming Planet Positive 2030, which is about to publish its first version mid-year. So you don't actually have to be an engineer, but the ability to work in teams across many different skill sets is definitely an advantage. So we have people from many different backgrounds from right across the world working together very collaboratively, and they may be academics or industry practitioners or professionals, perhaps retirees or even students. You can contribute both as an individual or as an organisation. So essentially these people, and if you are strongly motivated to creating standards or contributing to these industry connections programs, the common thread really is to seeking to make a difference in the world and to really trying to solve these global ethical and environmental sustainability issues through developing standards and reports. So here I'd like to just make a differentiation between IEEE's AI standards versus the AI certification program. So the standards are intended to create product and develop the service, or develop this product and services market for protecting public safety and well-being, and this is facilitated through the development and the use of the standards. Whereas the Conformity Assessment and Certification Program, or ICAP, is set up to verify and certify the adherence of AI products, systems, and services to the IEEE certified criteria. And they actually issue what they call a mark of AI ethics, which is an IEEE mark of trustworthy AI. Now, IEEE Standards Association introduced the IEEE Certified Certification Program back in 2021, which is a few years ago, to promote trustworthiness between organisations that are providing AI-driven services and the consumer. So this program was adapted from the 7000 and the 7010 standards. Now, certified consists of 4 criteria suites, a repeatable assessment methodology, which includes consideration of ethical values, and then we have the mark of AI ethics, which, as I mentioned, is the IEEE mark of trustworthy AI. So IEEE certified conveys a number of messages. Firstly, it affirms an organisation's commitment to human values, to dignity and well-being, and to respecting, protecting, and preserving fundamental human rights. But it also conveys the organisation's capability to fulfil these applicable criteria requirements of ethical accountability, transparency, privacy, and algorithmic bias. So it's intended to foster trust and facilitate the adoption and use of AI solutions, and also enhance confidence in public and private enterprises that wish to realise these benefits of AI ethics certification in the absence of, or perhaps as a complement to, broadly accepted and enforced regulations for AI, whilst mitigating risks associated with AI, liabilities, and any adverse impacts on their reputation and their market share. So, as I mentioned, IEEE certified is broadly compatible with upcoming regulatory frameworks such as the European Union's AI Act. So who are the certified stakeholders? So there are 3 types. On the left-hand side, we have the AI solution providers, the end clients who may be seeking evaluation and certification services for their AI services, their products, or their systems. And that includes software or hardware developers, products, and service providers. In the middle, we have the certified ecosystem, the authorized collaborators, and they may be companies or individuals who offer IEEE certified services to the market as assessors who consult with clients, prepare documentation for certification, certifiers who offer IEEE certified AI certification, and trainers who provide AI ethics and certified training. And on the right-hand side, We have the IEEE ICAP program, who owns and operates the program and then manages the certificates and the marks of trust. So here is a real use case for the IEEE certified involving the city of Vienna. So Vienna Stadtwerke is a public service provider owned by the city of Vienna, and they provide public services to more than 2 million customers in the Vienna metropolitan area. Now, since corporate social responsibility was central to and is central to their corporate strategy, they sought out a mechanism to prove this to their 2 million citizens, that, as a way of demonstrating to their public and citizens that they were fulfilling the high expectations as a service provider in the area of ethics. So when their customer service department of their energy provider was transitioning to an AI-driven automated email classification system for efficiency, they engaged IEEE to assess their compliance to the certified framework. And this was done with the criteria assessed against the Ethical Accountability Suite, to which the provider's AI services was evaluated. And then in 2021, the City of Vienna became the first organisation to be awarded the IEEE certified mark of trustworthy AI. So there is also the opportunity to expand your professional competencies by becoming an IEEE certified assessor. And organisations can become an authorised certified collaborating partner with the IEEE. Registration to IEEE's certified assessor training is actually available now, and I've put the QR code on the screen if you'd like to know more information. And many Australians have actually participated in this 3.5-day online training course. Of course, IEEE can also offer customised training to your organisation and has actually done this many times around the world. I'm actually a lead trainer as well with this course, and we have had excellent feedback from participants from all around the world, as it has lots of practical and hands-on live learning and use cases about how to put ethics into action. The courses are scheduled at convenient times throughout the year for the Asia Pac region. So if you have one of these various backgrounds or organisational types, you may be interested to know more and perhaps consider signing up for a scheduled certified assessor course. So if you are an AI service provider, like a product developer or an integrator, IEEE offers the opportunity to gain the IEEE certified AI ethics mark of trust. And this demonstrates a commitment to your customers that you uphold human values, well-being, and responsible innovation. It demonstrates a commitment to your customers that you uphold human values, well-being, and it differentiates you in the market through your commitment to addressing ethical considerations and societal concerns, as well as proactively giving you a head start for any future AI regulations. So this is IEEE's approach to advancing Australia's AI understanding and literacy through the IEEE AIE framework in order to prevent or mitigate the risk of unintentional harms for small, medium, or even large-sized organisations. So IEEE does this firstly on the left through awareness by introducing understanding to organisations with lots of useful literature and reports and training courses that explain AI, how to develop trust, and how to develop the capacity and the capability within your organisation. Then in the middle, under intelligence, again, IEEE offers various appropriate courses, literature, reports, and training in standards and the certified specifications for individuals and for organisations to review and use. And then for expertise, IEEE offers expertise and trains certified assessors, assesses AI trustworthiness and awards the marks, and trains in the standards through online and customised training to meet your organisational needs. So there you have it. It's a very brief journey through IEEE Standards Association's trustworthy AI portfolio to advance responsible AI adoption in Australia, from ethically aligned design and its various iterations and reports, and which were built on deep public engagement and research, to the socio-technical standards which are published, to the first level of certified ontological specifications for ethical trustworthiness. And these are all available for free public access for improved understanding. Yes, free. And this is to advance responsible AI adoption in Australia and worldwide by enabling organisations to differentiate themselves by building AI literacy, understanding, competency, and these methodologies, these methods to achieve the status of a trustworthy organisation or product or service.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ruth.
Thanks. Can I just finish? Have I
Of
got a minute
course, yeah.
to finish? Sorry, just to sum up my presentation, my key takeaways is that firstly, IEEE Standards Association offers an adaptive and customisable approach to advancing Australia's AI transformation journey with its industry connections programs, standards training, and certified adaptive risk certification methodology, going from AI principles into practice. IEEE is creating and enabling sound standards and certification for organisations, AI products and services, with a focus on human-centred values and human, societal and environmental wellbeing. And hopefully you understand what that means now. And addressing Australia's AI literacy or understanding gap, and building local capabilities by providing access to standards reports and certified specifications at no cost, and also training more people to provide global AI expertise to the industry. And that IEEE Standards Association welcomes, and particularly I welcome, contributions and involvement from a broad range of individuals and organisations for our trustworthy AI portfolio. So thank you very much for your attention. And sorry, Beth, as I
That's
mentioned,
fine.
my name is Ruth Lewis. My email address is on the screen if you have any questions on my presentation. There's a URL, excuse me, at the top for more information about the IEEE Standards Association's AI portfolio. Back to you, Beth. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. We do actually have quite a lot of questions that have come through, Ruth. And to those people online, we will get back to you about your questions. If we can't get to them now, we will come back to you. There were some great conversations emerging from your presentation, but I guess one of the main ones was, are you aware of any Australian businesses that are using these materials at the moment, Ruth? And are you getting any early insights from the use in Australia?
Oh, goodness. I wish there was more feedback, to be honest. As I said, these standards have been available for quite a while. Excuse me. I know in the training programs that I've been doing, some of the participants, once they find out about their standards, they're so excited. One particular lady who came along in Sydney actually was so excited she wanted to go and automate 7,000. And I don't know whether she actually did that. She said she was going to use it for all of her clients. So, you know, I hear stories, but I haven't had any specific feedback. And maybe this is part of the problem. We don't get that circular economy in terms of finding out exactly how they're being used. So I would love to get that feedback. And yes, please do. You've got my email address. Please try them out and let me know how you go. Or if you'd like more information about how to use it, please get in contact.
I think by the sound of it, you would be getting insights and experience from businesses and colleagues right around the world, which would add to the level of interest, I suppose, in terms of the community of practice that IEEE represents. But then being able to understand the application and the unique circumstances of Australia is another way to kind of think about how these can be made useful. There was a question here in regard to the use of the word standard, actually. So if you take the standard in the context of other types of disciplines, that they can be quite enforceable. What level of enforceability are there in relation to some of these materials and standards as such, Ruth? Is there any way of enforcing these types of standards? I suspect I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it from you.
No, that's right. So these standards and IEEE, let me just clarify, when we talk about standard, there are three types. Okay, so there's the standard, which is very specific language saying you have to do these things, 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are recommended practices, which is more around you should do these things, and then there's the guidelines, which actually my standards committee doesn't produce anyway, but they also exist. Enforceability is up to the organisation or regulatory authority, such as the government, which then refers to these standards and say you have to do, and that's exactly what, say, the European Union AI Act is doing. They will select certain standards and make them enforceable. Or potentially an organisation can do the same thing. You have to comply with these standards, and that's typically how it's done outside of the AI industry, perhaps, through safety, enforcing certain industry safety standards or security, that sort of thing. A similar thing will happen within the AI industry too.
Would be keen, Ruth, to better understand what type of time commitment would be required as a volunteer to get involved in some of these programs. And there was a really interesting question here from a student, I think, who was interested in participating. And I did know on your slide you were talking about lots of different people with lots of diverse experiences coming together to contribute. So you're after people with lots of different backgrounds. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of time commitment would be required?
Oh goodness, it's specific to standards development, or again,
yeah, maybe you could just give us a general
connections. Again, it really just depends. Though I say it is dangerous, I started off as a bit of a lurker in the background. See, I know I'm now running a standards committee. So it is a slippery slope because it is just so fascinating and interesting. You tend to give more and more time, but indeed a lot of people just start off just sort of hanging around and thinking, yes, well, I understand this bit, I will contribute this, or maybe it's a paragraph, or maybe it's a commentary, or maybe you're commenting on other people's comments. So there's kind of that initial orientation, and then you just kind of ease your way in and you see what topics are of interest and how you can contribute. But the lovely thing is when you start contributing through your own set of skills, you learn other skills, and particularly working with other people. For example, in 7000, I started off with a very strong process orientation, I suppose an engineer's viewpoint. Started working with ethics experts, very sort of socially conscious type people, legal experts, and the beautiful thing happens when you actually work side by side through what we call transdisciplinary skill sharing. That's where these standards explode into these amazing, contributions to society, because we're actually blending our skills together, and that's why they're so exciting.
I can imagine that you must have some amazing conversations with people right around the world, and it seems like a magnet for people who have a passion and an interest to contribute, and that would be, aside from anything else, a great way to make those connections, enhance your own skills, and actually be part of a solution. So I think it's fantastic. Ruth, thank you so much. There were some other specific questions that we will follow up with in terms of the individuals that made those submitted those questions. Thank you for adding your thoughts and comments. We would love to hear from you in regard to the presentation today, and to better understand what else we might provide to you in terms of the community of people interested in responsible AI here in Australia. One thing that I wanted to share with you is some of the other events that we have coming up in terms of next webinars. So we have Dr. Stefan Heikowitz, who is going to be sharing the report that was produced recently in regards to AI foundation models. And so that's going to be a fantastic event coming up on the 7th of May. And we have the Productivity Commissioner Stephen King joining Stella Solar, our director, on the 21st of May. So 2 events to look forward to. We would ask that you please add yourself to the mailing list to make sure that you get all of the information from the National AI Centre. We also publish and share materials relating to this event and other events following this event with an email, but you can also find this material published and shared on our YouTube channel. If I can provide those links, you can find all of our further information in terms of our LinkedIn pages, and we're also fostering a conversation about responsible AI and AI in Australia on X, and we would love to hear from you if you have any other ideas or contributions to make to the conversation. We thank you so much for your time. Please do remember to undertake that free AI course with the Institute for Applied Technology. We're encouraging everyone to build up their AI confidence, and we will come back to you with all of the information that Ruth shared today. So we look forward to seeing you again on our next webinar. Thank you, everyone.